Hi and welcome to this NET English Back to Basics video focusing today on language paper 2 for AQA and looking at an overview of the paper and question 1. Now the idea, as always with these videos, is to talk through a really simple summary of how things work and a few good ideas, a few top tips about what to do. So language paper 2 lasts 1 hour and 45 minutes, or about 2 hours and 10 minutes if you have 25% extra time. As with paper 1, you have the same structure, so the paper is split into two halves. The first half is reading, and the second half is writing. Now again, some of the best advice for the paper is really quite basic. The first is just do the questions in order. People do try and fiddle around with it, play around with it, but don't try and be clever and mess around with it. Just do the questions in the order they are in the paper. And that's the same advice that AQA give. There's a logic to it and it does build. I have come across people advising starting with section B or doing question 1 and 2 and then 4 and then don't. Just do them in order, it works. As with paper 1, the second top tip is how to work out timings, and it's the same advice. Basically, look at the marks and round to the 5 above. So you've got up to 5 minutes for a 4-mark question, up to 10 minutes for an 8-mark question, and all that goes all the way up to about 45 minutes for a 40-mark question. For the reading section, the questions are based on 2 short extracts, both from non-fiction texts. So they could be newspaper articles, they could be travelogues, diaries, letters, web pages. They'll always be about the same topic, and one will always be an older extract, so 19th century, and one will always be newer, so 20th to 21st century. You want to start the exam by reading the extracts, and that should take you about 10 minutes, possibly up to about 15 minutes. And I'll explain that slightly more in a minute. Now again, it's a good idea if possible to look at the questions before you read the extracts. So in terms of the idea of reading the questions before you look at the extracts, it's so that you know what you're looking for and in which text and in which bits of the text. So for these extracts, I can see the question 1 is about the first bit of source A, which is perfectly normal. Question 2 is about both sources, and again, that's the way it always works. And question 2 focuses on the differences between here, the weathers in the extracts. Question 3 is about source A, that's important for me to note, and it's focusing on lines 13 to 28, and it's about language to describe the storm. And question 4 is again about both sources, and is focusing on the people's experiences of the weather. What that means is that I can be annotating the extracts as I read them. And again, it's always a good idea when you're reading to be reading with your pen, to be constantly making notes as you read. Now, question 1 on paper 1 was really straightforward. Question 1 on paper 2 is even more straightforward. And you can do it quickly when you're finished reading, or even do it while you're reading, which is, for me, I think the better way of doing it. As with paper 1, question 1, is basically a test of whether you can pick out bits of information about a topic. So the way the question works, you're given 8 statements, 4 of which are correct. The statements always track through the section of the extract from the beginning to the end. So the first statement links to the first bit that you've been told to look at, and the last statement links towards the end of the bit you've been told to look at. All you need to do is to colour in the little circle, the lozenge, as AQA tend to call it, for the ones that are right. So here, for example, I'm looking at source A, and I can see that the first one is definitely correct. It says Helvellyn, a mountain in the Lake District in Cumbria. Right. The second one is definitely wrong. It says, I don't mean ropes and such things. So the second one can't be right. The third statement is definitely correct. It says around 7 a.m. on a bright and fresh March morning, so it's right, and so on. Now basically for these 8, the correct answer is A, C, E and H. I colour in those 4. Now this is a really, really easy question, but do watch out for statements that are almost right or that are the opposite of what's been said, because when you're working at speed, it's really easy to fall foul of the pressure of the exam, I suppose, and make an easy mistake. These are 4 really, really straightforward marks to acquire, but that does mean that these are 4 easy marks you need to be picking up. And that is paper 2, and that is question 1. Hopefully that's been useful. As ever, don't forget there's a whole range of videos covering every other topic you could possibly dream of looking at for English on the NET English YouTube channel, which is Net English 1. And thank you for your time.